Hi, welcome. And today we continue on in our reading through Second Kings, and we go through a number of kings again. First of all, we have in Israel we have Jehoahaz, who is Jehu's son, and as you recall, Jehu was the military leader who rid the kingdom of Baalism, and he had a son named Jehoahaz, and that actually means Yahweh has grasped. And it's evident that Jehu was really hoping his son would carry on in his footsteps and be faithful to the Lord. Unfortunately, as we're told here, that was not to be the case. One interesting thing, and there are actually 2 points to that I'd like to make, and this is the first one, and probably it, well, maybe it doesn't really speak to men more than women, but certainly it speaks to us men, especially as I have been criticized by my wife over the years for not being willing to ask for help or to ask for directions. In this case, I think the same is also true many times for us in our faith life, and here in Jehoahaz's case, it is also true. He's oppressed by Syria, and things are falling apart, and it's only when he is totally desperate and at his wit's end that he turns and goes to the Lord. Rather than seek the Lord right at the beginning and follow and walk with the Lord all the way, he waits until things are in dire straits. He goes to the Lord, and the exciting thing here, though, is that as we see over and over in Scripture, that is precisely what the Lord desires people, us, to do, and that is to go to Him. And when Jehoahaz does this, God hears him. Now, he doesn't actually answer Jehoahaz until his son takes over in the reign of Jehoash, but nonetheless, he does answer his prayer finally, and the Lord assists him at that point. So we have to take note of that, and I think for me, it really is saying, go to the Lord, have a regular dialogue, trust in Him, be led by Him, and listen to Him. And as you do, even when you falter, we know that through Jesus Christ we are forgiven. What God really desires is that we walk with Him humbly and trust in Him completely. And so this is a good lesson for us today. Now, the other thing that was interesting is this business with Elisha. And at this point, it has been since 2 Kings chapter 9. It has really been, even though it's only a few chapters further on, it has really been about 50 years. So at this point, Elisha is a very old man. And he is come to, and as we look at King Jehoash of Israel comes to him and looks at him. And I wanted to, first of all, just mention in verse 14 where you're reading there and it says, my king, when Jehoash confronts Elisha and says, I see the chariots and the charioteers of Israel. According to commentators, there are actually several different ways that that can be interpreted. Nobody knows for sure. Josephus, who's a famous writer of those days, scribe back in the days of immediately following Christ, says that in those writings, really what Jehoash is speaking about is Elisha has been the mainstay of protection for the people of Israel, and he really acted as their chariots and charioteers. Now others say that the chariots and charioteers are been destroyed, and this is a lament of that fact. But however you interpret it, he comes to Elisha to ask Elisha's help. And Elisha, who has this great dramatic flair and use of visuals, as we've seen over the years, says, take up your bow. I want you to go out to the window facing Syria, and I want you to shoot the arrows. Now it says strike the ground, and actually it's probably more effectively interpreted as how many arrows land in the ground, rather than just taking a bunch of arrows and striking the ground. So he shoots the arrows. Unfortunately, Jehoash only shoots, I believe, 3 arrows. And Elijah gets rather upset with him and says, why didn't you shoot 5 or 6 arrows? Then you would have had complete victory. Now you're not going to have complete victory. In a sense, Jehoash fails in his eagerness to follow God's leading. And that's kind of the second point for me today. Sometimes I feel like in my own life that I'm willing to follow God to a certain point. And then I'll call it a day and feel like, well, that was my best effort. And if we do that, if that's all we hold ourselves accountable to and for, we're going to fall short of what is possible if we let God work through us and we totally give ourselves to Him. And so, two things today. Number one, make sure that we don't wait till the situation is desperate before we go to the Lord. And number two, how about we answer God's call eagerly, anticipating, completely following Him to wherever He leads. That's going to be my prayer for myself today as I've gone through this reading, and I pray that it might be for you as well. We'll look forward to talking with you again. Have a great day.